So, as was mentioned, I'm Jeremy Renshaw. I work at EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute in Artificial Intelligence. So you may be saying to yourself, well, I don't recognize the company. Your title says Artificial Intelligence. I think you wandered into the wrong room. So I think my main purpose here today is to convince you that I am supposed to be here, this is the right room, and find ways that we can work together. So I want to talk a little bit first about introducing who is EPRI, what do we do, so we can kind of understand where we're coming from. So EPRI works across the entire electric power sector, and we work as a nonprofit research institute with utilities, vendors, national labs, government organizations from around the world. And our main purpose as a nonprofit is for the public benefit. So we are not here to increase shareholder value, we are here to accelerate technology across the entire landscape of the electric power industry. And you can see some of the areas that we work in, from nuclear power to other low carbon energy sources, electrification, transmission, distribution, advanced grids, and so forth. So these are the areas that we focus on. Of course, we work across the entire electric power system, so there's a lot that I'm not going to cover here. As I mentioned, our true mission is for public benefit, and we do this through accelerating transitions of technology, so getting advanced technologies out and used in industry. We also are here for guiding energy strategy, not only in the US, but around the world, and being a trusted source of information. So we are not out there trying to convince anyone of anything. We are trying to find out what is the right answer and provide that information to those who do make the decisions. So we do have offices around the world. We are primarily based in the US and Europe. That's where most of our technical and other staff sit. But we do have offices around the world, so we are not just a US-based organization. But now I want to transition, and now that you know who EPRI is, I'm sure you can answer all your friends and enemies' questions about what we are and what we do. So why am I here today? So one of the things that we're doing at EPRI is, again, trying to accelerate technology, get it ready to be in prime time and used at utilities around the world. So one of the things that we're doing is trying to understand what is the technology and help our utility members understand that as well. One of the things I will say is, obviously quantum computing offers new paradigms, new ways of thinking, new ways of solving problems, but also the same old hype. So you can see all kinds of articles every day on your news feed of what is quantum doing today, who's advancing, who has the most qubits, who has the best qubits, and all of this. What we're really trying to do is take the noise out and find out what is the signal, what can we do, what is real. And one of the ways that we're trying to provide real value is taking individual use cases and accelerating those and bringing people together to collaborate together. So one of the things I love about EPRI is we're not competing with anyone. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not necessarily here to buy anything. I'm here to try and help people work together with us or with each other to be able to accelerate getting these technologies used in the industry. So one of the ways that we're doing this is with a challenge that we released earlier this year. Some of you may know Emma Wong. She was my predecessor. We worked together to put together a quantum and AI challenge for cybersecurity. So we released this on the street, and really what this was a call for ideas, not even necessarily proposals, a call for ideas that we could potentially work on in the future, and we had some prize money for the winning entries to be able to go after high-value use cases focused on cybersecurity. This is one of the big issues in the power industry. In fact, I'm from North Carolina. You may have heard earlier this week that we had a substation that got shot up, not a cyber attack, but a physical attack, and thousands of people lost power across the state. So these are the kinds of things, not just physical attacks, but cyber attacks can be even more devastating than those physical attacks. You can turn off power for long periods of time for people in the winter, which will literally cause deaths, because when people don't have power, they may not be able to heat their homes and they can die. So it's one of those things where we are very sensitive to the adverse impacts of cyber attacks that can have on the grid. So one of the things that we're looking at is how can we use quantum to help with this? So we got a number of submissions in this. We were hoping for about 30 to 50. We got maybe about half of that. But we do have a number of high quality submissions for going after this. But to kind of give you how the challenge was organized, we issued the challenge, we assembled an industry-wide panel of experts from academia, national labs, government organizations, and EPRI to be able to go through this. One of the things I really want to focus on is this was a blind panel. So all of the people who were on the panel did not see the names, they did not see the companies, they did not see the platforms or the software names of what was proposed. They really only saw the technical details of the ideas. And so there was no favoritism, it was completely blind. And I'll tell you a little bit more, but the full details you can see at the link in the yellow at the bottom. We'll release these slides to anyone who wants them, so you can go through and read that, or you can go to our website there. And so, in summary, you can see some of the organizations of where the people were, and we have monetary prizes that we're awarding to the top 3 entries from this blind evaluation. And we will next year publish a white paper covering these top 3 situations. Maybe not the full details, because one of the things we were very adamant about in this proposal, and I had to fight our lawyers on, was that we are not owning any of the IP for this. This remains with the people who submitted that. So they may have shared some details with us that we will not be sharing in the white paper, but we'll give you as much of the technical details as is allowed to be able to understand what the concepts are. So without further ado, I do want to announce the winners. So you can see the names here, and as well as the titles. So the grand prize was from Inflection/Cold Quanta, which is DC power flow contingency analysis with NISQ-era hybrid quantum algorithms. So this is looking at what do we do in the situation of performing these contingency analyses for the power grid to be able to help with cybersecurity issues. Second place, also from Inflection/Cold Quanta. So again, this is why I wanted to really focus. This was a blind, this was not picking favorites, this was our experts across the industry choosing the technical capabilities of the solutions that were provided, was looking at atomic clock enhanced grid security. And Rima actually talked a little bit about the importance of this earlier for spoofing GPS or denial of service attacks that can happen on the grid that can cause, again, massive issues with our grid. Third place was Quantum Network Analytics. And this was by Mark McGuire. Not that Mark McGuire, but Mark McGuire, who was an individual contributor in this case, not associated with a company. So again, this was an open call for anyone who wanted to participate. This one is one that's also very interesting because, again, you know me, I'm an AI guy, so this is looking at quantum machine learning where you can have zero-shot, one-shot learning type approaches. And if you're not an AI person, usually you need vast amounts of data for AI to be effective. But with, as many of you know, quantum algorithms, you can reduce that training data set to something that's more manageable. In some cases, we have components in, not just in cybersecurity, but in the energy industry, things like transformers are something like 99.99% reliable. So you have so few failures that you just don't have a large enough training data set, even if you were to combine data from many different utilities around the globe. They just don't fail that often, which is a great thing, but it makes it hard to use AI for these types of applications. So we're excited about all 3 of these entries, all 3 of the winners. We're in the process of getting them paid, and there will be some social media links that go out later today, in fact, in just a few minutes. We timed it with this presentation so it didn't go out too early. And so you'll be able to see those, and we will share more information on those as the year goes on in 2023. But we're not done. We had some really good success with this, and so now we have a bunch of areas that we can go after within the cybersecurity realm and work together with these groups that submitted as well as others. So what we want to do now is look at what can we do in the future. So we're looking at having additional challenges moving forward around, again, big topical areas, hard problems. A few of them are here, looking at grid optimization. I think these are almost copies from Rima's slides, so I promise I didn't take them from you. I submitted these before I saw yours. But we have things like optimal power flow problems with extremely complex power grid networks that are getting exponentially more complex as consumers become prosumers, where they're producing, consuming at different times of day and night. And as our grid resources become aged, they're starting to fail more often. I mean, our traditional grid was 99.97 or 99% reliable. That number is going to go down as our infrastructure continues to age. There's only so many and so fast. We can only build things so fast to be able to upgrade the infrastructure that we have. And with the rapid advent of small generation sources like wind turbines, solar panels, rooftop solar, and so forth, our grid is becoming extremely complex, and our grid operators are already strained to the max. Next is climate modeling. This is one where I think we can all agree it's a big challenge and one that we would like to do a better job at understanding. We heard a lot about quantum sensing both in this session and many other sessions. I'm a sensors guy to begin with. That's kind of where I grew up. So I love the sensing world, and as we can reap the benefits of these advanced sensors that are much more sensitive to the quantities that we're trying to measure, there's so many benefits that can come from that. And of course, I'm an AI guy, so quantum machine learning is hot on my list. I didn't put it on here because I was afraid I'd talk too much about that and not about anything else. But the one thing I do want to say is, as I close, I want to hear from all of you, are these the right things? Should we be doing something else? Part of why I'm here is really to talk with all of you to understand what are the problems we should be working on together. So with that, let's talk.
Plenty of time for questions. Do I see any hands out there? Up. We need to get you on the mic so it's recorded. Thank you.
I have a little technical question. Like you said that as compared to classical AI, for quantum AI, you need smaller data sets. Do you know why?
Well, I will admit I took over quantum about 2 months ago, so I am still getting up to speed on all of that. I may have to defer to someone else to answer exactly why, but it has been shown that quantum algorithms can be effective to the same level as classical algorithms with much less training data. So I don't know if anyone else wants to save me there. That's about the limit of my knowledge.
Another question I had is that one of the things was grid optimization.
Mm-hmm.
Are you also looking at like resilience against attacks and like our load balancing and stuff?
Absolutely. In fact, we have an initiative going on right now called Climate Ready, where we have about 50 different utilities from around the world that are working together around resiliency issues.
Any other questions? Okay. I see a hand go up. Just a second.
So every year, the Homeland Security Department works, they mandate each state to prepare a resource plan that in the event that there's some sort of event or natural disaster, that the states know what their resources are, and they can use them in several different ways. And in doing so, they had to put out an idea of what their best worst case scenario might be. So for instance, a hurricane that comes through Texas might be devastating, but if they can use their resources to come back from it, then it's their best worst case scenario, as opposed to a hurricane that comes through and destroys absolutely everything and there's nothing you could have done about it. Mm-hmm. So in putting together these scenarios and evaluating their resources, obviously the power grid is one that has come up amongst, when I worked in Homeland Security in Massachusetts, this was one that came up because it's powered by gas, and if that goes out, then you have a huge issue on the East Coast. So are you involved with any of those initiatives to help states evaluate what their potential risk is and how quantum could help with that?
I am not, but EPRI does perform a lot of analyses like that, both technical and economic analyses to look into resource planning. But that might be something we could look at using quantum for as well. I like that idea. Thank you.